All right, so all eyes are on June 10th, Rajya Sabha elections, promising to be a pot boiler and a cracker of an elections. There's a scramble for MLAs where the state of Haryana is concerned, the state of Rajasthan, Karnataka, Maharashtra. Will it come down to the wire? Are we going to see a contest? Let's hark back to the Ahmed Patel versus Amit Shah contest for the Rajya Sabha. Very, very interesting. I want to pull in our consulting editor, Rajdeep Sardesai, who's joining me live on this. Rajdeep, do you think it's going to come down to that, those 2 days or 3 days, what we saw of that Ahmed Patel, Amit Shah kind of a contest? Is it going to be interesting? Because each state is promising, in some, to come down to possibly with the cross voting, horse trading, come down to the wire.
You mentioned Amit Shah versus Ahmed Patel. I think that was a few years ago, 2017, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
But it really, that election, in a way, reflected just how competitive Rajya Sabha elections have got. Because actually, Rajya Sabha elections are pretty simple. Each MLA from his or her party goes, casts their vote, shows the vote. It's an open voting in that
Yes.
sense. It's not a secret ballot. And whoever has the majority of MLAs wins. What happened in that particular election of Amit Shah versus Ahmed Patel is because there was the margin between the top two parties in Gujarat was narrow, because there were enough Congress MLAs who potentially could switch, because there were one or two smaller parties or independents who were being wooed. The margin became very narrow and the stakes were very high, because it was Amit Shah versus Ahmed Patel, Sonia Gandhi's political secretary, the late Ahmed Patel, versus
It
the
was a
BJP.
prestige war for both.
It was a prestige war versus, Amit Shah at the time was the BJP president. So because it became a prestige war, it became sort of a winner takes all, and it actually went on till 2 a.m., which is a big surprise. Normally, even with cross voting, elections are usually decided by 4 or 5 p.m. So that was unusual. I am not so sure any election this time has the same stakes as the Gujarat election had. But yes, there is enough of suspense, enough of drama, enough of potential action for this election to go down to the wire. And therefore, in all these three states, but particularly, I would say your
State of Haryana.
your
Yes,
state
I have
of
I have
Haryana,
my eyes
where I
glued
think
there.
it's going to be particularly close. The sense I'm now getting from Rajasthan, at least, is that increasingly it's appearing that as of now, the Congress has the slight edge. Most of their MLAs seem to be together. Subhash Chandra of Z
They've all checked in. Most of the MLAs have checked in
into a
to the resort.
hotel.
Yes.
They're in the Aravali's resort, which seems to be doing rather well.
Right.
Look at resort politics. All in Haryana, the MLAs have been taken. Congress MLAs to Chhattisgarh to Raipur, Rajasthan MLAs to Udaipur. Maharashtra Shiv Sena MLAs are in various hotels. Congress MLAs are in various hotels of Mumbai, and you've got the MLAs of Haryana in Chhattisgarh, and Haryana for now in Chhattisgarh.
Right.
The question is that in Rajasthan, at least it appears the Congress has got
BJP MLAs are also in resorts. It's not just the Congress.
BJP
Yes.
MLAs are in Jaipur,
Jaipur,
for now.
yes.
And they're also in a luxury resort. I'm told some of the resort prices are about 25,000.
They're sustaining the Rajasthan hospitality
They-
tourism business as of now.
That Aravali hotel itself seems to have become a space for political events. The Congress had its Chintan Shivir there a few weeks ago. So May, June, they're
Right.
covered. But the point is that I think out of all these states, and maybe you can tell us, Haryana seems to be the closest because it's a very tight race. It could be one MLA, two MLAs that could make all the difference. In Rajasthan, Subhash Chandra of Z will need at least 7 to 8 MLAs to cross vote for him
Right.
to defeat the Congress.
Okay, I'm going to watch of all of them. Yes, I think Haryana is going to be a very keen contest because at least it seems right now that Kartikeya Sharma squared the political pitch where the various political parties are in question because he enjoys a fair amount of goodwill with the Congress as well. The JJP, all 10 MLAs seem to be going with Subhash Chandra. Will there be cross voting? Because there's a lot of disgruntlement against the newly appointed, who have now sweeping powers where Haryana is concerned.
Let's explain to our viewers. Kartikeya Sharma is
Yes.
a media baron. India News is also
News X,
known,
yeah.
is also the son of Vinod Sharma, who was a Congress leader for a
Yes.
very long time, very close to Mr. Huda when Mr. Huda was chief minister. And he's also, the notoriety is that his brother is Manu Sharma,
Yes.
who was convicted in the Jessica Lal case. And it's interesting, someone told me that when Manu Sharma was in jail, that's when he built contacts with the Chautalas who were also in jail. And that's why the JJP, the party of the Chautalas, is fully behind
Behind
Kartikeya
him.
Sharma. Where we also know that there are some BJP leaders who have been aggressively backing Kartikeya. He's seen effectively as a BJP candidate. The question again is, are there enough Congress MLAs vulnerable? He
Yes.
will need a couple of Congress MLAs again to
Mind
stop
you,
him.
Kuldeep Bishnoi has not checked into the resort. Kiran Chaudhary has not checked into the resort. There are a few disgruntled lot who haven't really checked into the resort, because what's seeming to understand is if you've checked into the resort, then you are with the party whip. If you haven't, then what? So there are enough 4-5 who are sitting on the fence who are still saying Rahul Gandhi ji se pehle baat karenge, फिर decide
I
करेंगे.
am told that Kuldeep Bishnoi, the latest I'm hearing, may have been wooed by the Congress leadership, because it is going down to that one or
Yes.
two MLAs. Look, imagine that you've got an election to the so-called House of Elders in India, Parliament, which was designed. I mean, the Rajya Sabha was designed to ensure that you would get in people of distinction who would be seen as potentially overseeing the Lok Sabha, who would be men of intellect, men of some repute. Instead, what do we have? We have money power again. I mean, I was asking someone, just calculate if you're staying in these five-star hotels in Mumbai with a rack rate of anything from 15 to 25,000, and there are more than 125 of you staying there over 7 days. Who's paying the bill? Uh, and the person laughed and said, "Look, that's not your lookout." But either way, the fact is that money power is here to stay in Rajya Sabha. And it's not just the first time that's happened. It's been happening over 15, 20 years. Very interestingly, Preeti, the first instance of
Right.
resort politics was Shankar Singh Waghela, the former Chief Minister of Gujarat. When he
Gujarat.
actually broke away from the BJP in 1995, he went to Khajuraho. And I remember because I went there at the time to cover that story, and it was interesting because it was all very new. The fact that you've got all these MLAs in a Khajuraho five-star hotel, and that too traditional BJP MLAs who generally were loyalists of the party, but so was Shankar Singh Waghela. He had taken his party by
Right.
surprise, and it seemed almost a novelty at the time. Now, especially in states like Karnataka, which this time seems to have got its act together, no horse trading at the moment. But there you've seen a number of MLAs being ferreted even out of the state. And therefore, I think it sets. I mean, think of how the common man will look at this. That we elect you, we send you to parliament, or we send you to state assemblies, but you are effectively purchasable, bribable, subject to inducements, and therefore you have to be kept under lock and key effectively.
You
Not
know,
there.
Rajdeep, I'm going to quickly bring you in. We have 5 more minutes, and I'm going to quickly bring you in on Rajasthan to talk about Rajasthan, because it seems out of all these states, which is going to keep us most entertained on the 10th would be, I would reckon, Haryana. But if you're looking at Rajasthan, there's that whole outsiders pitch, which all three, which have been put forth by the Congress. The party leaders in Congress in Rajasthan have made that very clear that they are not happy with it. On the other hand, then you have that entire camp, which is the Sachin camp, which is the Gehlot camp. Will one want to embarrass the other, or do you think everything is settled there?
No, I think it is in a strange way, I wouldn't call it so much as a prestige fight, but for both Mr. Gehlot in Rajasthan and for Mr. Huda in Haryana,
Right.
this is a chance to establish their political supremacy in both
Supremacy,
these
yes.
states. They have been effectively told by the Congress leadership, which frankly has almost committed harakiri in the manner in which some of the choices they've made.
Maharashtra, your own state. Many would say it's a.
No, you see, what's happened is that, for example, a Mukul Vasnik who's from Maharashtra, is the Congress candidate from Rajasthan.
Yes.
Randeep Surjewala, who's from Haryana, is the Congress candidate from Rajasthan.
Pramod Tiwari, who's nothing in UP.
Pramod Tiwari, who's now slowly got marginalized in UP, is the Congress candidate in
Yes.
Rajasthan. So the candidates themselves do not carry any weight. So they are relying on the chief minister to pull them through. What's happened in Maharashtra is more interesting. Maharashtra is not so much about the Congress. In Maharashtra, it is the fact that the BJP and the Shiv Sena engaged.
But the choice of the candidate that the Congress put forth in Maharashtra, Imran Pratapgarhi,
is from UP. He's relatively a new entrant to the Congress,
Right.
barely 3-4 years. You said that you wanted people in these posts who would have spent time in the party, yet you've given him a ticket from Maharashtra, virtually suggesting to the Maharashtra Congress, no one from your lot is good enough. So there are these questions certainly that need to be asked, need to be raised in the manner in which choices are made. But in Maharashtra, the principal battle is BJP's Sena for this 5th seat or
Okay.
6th seat. For the 6th seat, where the two of them are fighting. you would have expected purely in terms of numbers, the Maharashtra Vikas Aghadi would get that seat. But the BJP wants to create the impression that this Aghadi can collapse at any time. It's become Devendra Fadnavis versus Uddhav Thackeray in some kind of an ego battle. Remember, Maharashtra is the one state where for 40 years, we've never had an election for Rajya Sabha. It's always been done by consensus. So even in states
Right.
where you had a tradition of consensus, the consensus is breaking.
Rajdeep, before I'm going to let you go, you're a veteran where elections are concerned. I want to ask you, where Rajya Sabha elections, which have relatively been so much tamer than the Lok Sabha elections, are things now changing, which we started off the whole conversation with? What are you going to watch out for on the 10th of June?
Well, Preeti, as I said, you know more about Haryana than I do. You know the interstices of Haryana politics, and I think Haryana will be the state where the election could go well down to the wire, where Mr. Makhan will have a number of sleepless nights, hoping that all the Congress MLAs stay on one side. Rajasthan, despite the fact that you have a major media baron in Subhash Chandra, who interestingly won from Haryana last time amidst
But the
controversy.
independents have the tribals, the independents, Hanuman Beniwal have all pledged support to him.
1 minute. First of all, Subhash Chandra himself last
Yes.
time won the election in Haryana allegedly because some of the candidates used invisible ink. Their votes were sort of they were disqualified. Their votes
Right.
were not counted. Now this is someone therefore who can perhaps pull a rabbit out of the hat at the last moment. Out of the parties you mentioned, Hanuman Beniwal's party, the
RLP,
Rashtriya Loktantrik
RLP, yes.
Party has decided to support Subhash Chandra.
Yes.
However, I am told that
Independent
today the
tribals are saying they're going
no,
their
the
way.
BTP today has decided, has met Ashok
Okay.
Gehlot. They've gone to the resort and they have promised him in the resort, probably for a couple of nights
Nice.
in the resort, they've promised him, we are with you. So they were an important element in Subhash Chandra's plan. Look, Subhash Chandra needs more
Right.
people to cross over than Kartikeya Sharma needs in Haryana.
Right.
Because Kartikeya Sharma has a fair backing of JJP
Yes.
and the BJP. So I think Haryana will go down to the wire, and we'll have to wait and see whether Subhash Chandra can pull off a last minute surprise. I was just speaking to Sachin Pilot because yesterday.
What's he saying? Yeah.
You see, Subhash Chandra yesterday went out and said in public, Sachin Pilot, this is your